This week on Money Makes It Weird, yeah, you're compatible when it comes to love and when you're hanging out with your partner, but when it comes to their money, are you compatible? The questions you should be asking your future partner before you tie the knot. That's coming up next. Welcome to this edition of Money Makes It Weird. My name is Matt Haze. I am the talking head, and this person right over here,
I'm Chris.
he's
I'm
Chris
the
Fox.
expert.
He is the expert, the official certified financial planner expert from
Certifiable.
Certifiable, very certifiable on paper. We can prove it. Certified financial planner from Fox Financial and IPC. Glad to have you here, Chris. How are things? It's been a busy last couple of weeks for you on the road. Been traveling a lot.
Yeah, lots. Across the country, zigzagging.
Absolutely.
It's been great. Yeah, I was in Vancouver for a while. I was in Toronto for a while.
Mm-hmm.
We finally got to meet in person.
Absolutely. We got to meet not side by side like this. We actually had to look at each other face to face. It was different. It was nice. Very, very nice.
You're
we had
exactly
a good time.
what I expected.
You as well. So you as well. Just in human form. That's all. That's the only difference. But no, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thanks for taking time to hang out.
Fun.
And I really enjoyed it. Had a fun little lunch, and then you got back on the road and had to go spend time with the clients and go do all the business things. And
that's right.
You how many days a year would you say you are outside of Alberta meeting with your clients? Because you have clients pretty much all across Canada.
Yeah. Let's see. Well, I'm in Whitehorse for at least a week a year.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be there in June. That'll be fun. I love Whitehorse. I'm in Vancouver at least twice a year. I'm on the island at least once a year. Toronto 4 times a year. So I don't know, 6 to 8 weeks, something like that. Nice. Maybe more.
Yeah.
Oh, and then I drive around BC as well. I've got lots of clients in the interior. Yeah. So I always mix that with a little bit of mountain biking.
Always have to get that in there, though.
Yeah.
Always has to work that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is nice how we can still have these kind of virtual conversations this way, but it's also great, though, that I love that you make that effort to still go out and shake the hands with people in person and still let them know that, you are a real human being. You're just not this virtual avatar over a Zoom, a Zoom meeting. So
it's true.
Yeah.
But I would say the majority of my clients are in, Calgary and Edmonton. So
yeah. Got
it.
Yeah.
I love going out on the road. It's fun.
Yeah. Got the beauty of today's world, how we can be able to, work from anywhere at any time and do whatever we got to do. So that's the beauty of today's modern age. And with the beauty of today's modern age too, things kind of gotten, I think, a little messy when it comes to marriage. It feels like it's not as easy as it used to be, say, 40, 50 years ago and this is just from, what our parents and grandparents seem to have, told us from the stories,
And TV. And TV romanticized
movies.
Maybe just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. You watch those stories about the quote unquote good old days and you're like, man, it's a little different than, how it used to be now,
Yeah.
And, it seems to be that, one of those things that, yes, it's so important that, don't get me wrong, Chris and I, we're not here to tell you about, how to find the love of your life and what's important when it comes to, the chemistry and all of that. We probably are not the people you want to talk to about that.
No.
Nah, I wouldn't say that.
Nah.
No, don't come to us for advice for that. But, one of the things that is important to talk about, though, because one of the things that potentially could cause problems down the road is money. And Chris, when, how many times, when you've had clients come and sit in your office when they tell you that, unfortunately a relationship hasn't, worked out, what percentage of those conversations does money play into that, would you say?
Ooh. 70%?
Wow.
2/3?
That's
for sure.
Crazy.
2/3. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. They say it can make it weird. And it's not always about the money, but certainly that's a big factor. Compatibility, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's one of those things that it's kind of that uncomfortable, we probably should, and we kind of have an idea maybe what, our partners, financial situation or what their beliefs are, but maybe we
Mm-hmm.
should actually have that really tough conversation. And today we're going to be
Yep.
sharing with you the 3 money conversations that you need to have before you get married, and 3 big buckets and 3 topics and some of the questions that you should be having in those conversations. Now, whether these are each conversation you have separately or you sit down with a bottle of wine and you go through it is your choice. How you choose to do this is up to you. That is not for us to suggest, but hopefully this will kind of give you some guidance, and you can take this and at least get the conversation started, I think. And Chris,
Yeah.
as we go through this, it'd be interesting, if there's any stories that you've had, from your clients. Obviously you cannot share anything very specific, that you've
Mm-hmm.
had from clients. You legally cannot do that. But if there's anything, in particular, or any, any overall experiences that you've seen, kind of trends from clients that you've seen over
Mm-hmm.
the years, you definitely, I think, it would be interesting to, hear, is there, and let's start with that first. Is there anything, over the last, couple of years, especially since the pandemic, since life seems to have changed, where, maybe, as people have sat down in your office, and those that have decided that, it's time to end that relationship and we're going to go in a different way, and money might have
Mm-hmm.
been involved in it. Is there like 1 or 2 themes related to money that really stood out, or they're like, oh, we just couldn't agree to this, or this is the money reason that sparked it?
I have clients that are going or about to go through separation. Money's not a huge factor, but it can be a little messy, right?
Yeah.
Especially when they actually weren't technically married, but common law. One owns the house, one doesn't, that kind of stuff. One makes more than the other. How do you equalize that out? Childcare, all that stuff. So that gets a little sticky. Thankfully, it's amicable, I think.
Hmm.
So there won't be, big legal battles or anything like that. So,
Yeah.
um, but I would say, not having that communication with your partner about money can compound things. It may not be the reason why, but I think
Hmm.
it's a compounding factor, right?
Yeah.
For sure.
So let's start with that first conversation that, I think partners should at least start with. And we are calling it the lifestyle chat. That first
Hmm.
conversation, kind of overall talking about,
The lifestyle
the
chat. I
lifestyle
I
chat.
think we can rename that.
We're
The
talking about money
lifestyle.
lifestyle. Money
Okay.
lifestyle. Let's clarify money
Uh-huh.
lifestyle.
For some
What
of the
type of
people that
life
know
do
what I'm
you
talking
want?
about.
Yeah, let's clarify that. We're not talking about the pineapple or the bowl with the keys in it type of
Thank
lifestyle.
you.
We're not going to that direction. Let's clarify that. But what type of life do you as a couple want to live?
Yeah.
What's important to you? What do you want to have kids? What are where do you want to live? And kind of
Hmm.
have that vibe. And I mean, I'll give as a prime example, Chris, to start the conversation off. The way my girlfriend and I travel have always been kind of, similar but different. We both love to travel internationally, but she
Hmm.
always would like to get like a little bit extra nicer Airbnb, where I'm always trying to find a little bit more of a little bit extra deal. And maybe, it's a nice place, but I might be in a little bit more
Hmm.
sharing mood, where maybe it's, I'm sharing a room in a house. Or
Okay.
maybe it's maybe a little bit on the outskirts of the nicer neighborhood, and I
Right.
have to walk an extra few minutes. And our styles might have shifted a little bit. Now I've improved
Hmm.
mine a little bit because I am spending a little bit more money to make her happy with travel and all.
Yeah.
But I think the
Good.
type of lifestyle and how people live and all is probably a good conversation. To kind of see
Hmm.
whereabouts and how how people like to spend their money.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I could admit freely that Kelly, my wife, will say I'm a bit of a dichotomy. I
Hmm.
do like the Fairmont.
Hmm.
However, I love sleeping in the dirt in my sleeping bag too.
Hmm.
So there's a big gap there.
Yeah.
But having that conversation for sure about, where you want to live, the the type of life you want to lead,
Hmm.
where your priorities and spending are,
Yep.
Is it for today? Is it for building that house or life together? Is it for a kid down the road? Is it for retirement?
Hmm.
Obviously it depends on everybody's circumstances. If they're a younger couple, then different priorities for sure versus,
Yep.
someone who's been married before, right?
Yep.
You mean maybe bringing a couple of houses together, maybe a couple of families together, you know, um, for sure the communication, in those more complex situations needs to be there, right?
Yep.
I think a lot of younger couples like, oh, we'll figure it out as we go, um, and they just kind of make it work, but they may not have that full conversation, which is can be a problem down the road for sure.
Yeah. Also, your beliefs about money, I think, are also
Mm-hmm.
important too, because how we all grow up with money is very different. Some of
Yeah.
us come from a you must save every penny. It's very important just
Yeah.
because that's the way we believe. Or some we come from a family that spends everything and doesn't save a lot. Or some of us come
Mm-hmm.
from a family where money comes in a lot more than others, and some come from
Yeah.
more of a poor background. So their belief in money and how it comes in, it varies.
Yeah.
And when you have two different type of beliefs like that, they can clash, and you have to kind of see
Mm-hmm.
where that plays
Yeah.
out. And when then it comes to buying a house and when it comes to having a kid, those two different beliefs can come and clash against each other. So I think it's
Yeah.
important to understand what,
Yeah.
A, what beliefs did you have growing up? And B, how does that
Mm-hmm.
affect you now? Do you still have that? And,
Yeah.
what will that look like when we're having to, make a very important decision down the road?
Yeah. And did your parents teach you or someone teach you about, how to use money as a tool, right?
Yeah,
Not just, oh, I got it, I'm going to spend it, right? How it can be used, how it can be compounded, how it can be invested.
right.
Not overspending, not over leveraging, all those important factors for sure. And there's no hard and fast rule, whether someone grew up poor and they're going to overspend or, just as likely someone grew up rich and is going to overspend, right? Like, oh,
Right.
it's just going to come in, keep coming in until the day it doesn't for whatever reason, right? So,
Yep.
yeah. Yeah, I would say with most couples, there's one person that takes care of all the numbers and the other person
Mhm.
is just like, yeah, whatever, as
Right.
long as we're doing our thing, right? So,
Yep.
um, yeah, I would say most couples, right? Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
just thinking about it. One of my faves, older couple, and he comes in. He's a retired RCMP officer, and she's a retired nurse, and they're in their early 80s, and he just talks about everything else, and kind of sometimes will tune out and like, and I always make a joke about it, and he's like, I know how much you love this stuff, and he's like, yeah, right, and laughs about it, and then we just continue the conversation. But clients are awesome.
That's a great segue into the second conversation about, there's always kind of that one person, between the two that kind of really minds the money. Well, that goes into our
Hmm.
second conversation, the budget chat. Who is the
Yeah.
person that is going to be minding the money? And let's talk
Hmm.
about specifically what those numbers are. Once you kind of have a feel of what that
Yeah.
lifestyle is, of what you're spending your money on, what's important, and what your beliefs about money are, okay, let's
Hmm.
set that budget. Let's talk about what the specific numbers are. What is coming
Yeah.
in? What is going out? What do we want to be spending our money on? What do we not want to be spending our money on? Who's tracking the numbers? What are these
Hmm.
big pictures? So,
Yeah.
Chris, when someone's sitting down and wanting to kind of go through that, what's important? What should they be asking their partners?
Hmm. Yeah. First of all, like, where's the money going? Is it going into one central bank account, like a joint account?
Yeah.
Is it all of your paychecks that are going there? Is it percentage? Like, if she's making 100 grand a year and he's making 60 grand a year, is there a percentage, you're making more, so you put more in and kind of an equal thing, into that central account where all the bills get paid for. And I see that a lot. Also, some clients are like, well, I'll cover all this stuff, you cover this stuff, and it may or may not be equal, but it's fair in their sense,
Mhm.
right? So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I think figuring out the flow, I think, is pretty important, right?
Yeah.
initially. Yeah. Um, and then, like you said, after that, what are we spending that money on, right? Is it primarily for a house? Do we have a house? Are we saving for a house? Kids, all that fun stuff. Do people get their own separate bank accounts, right? So I'm getting paid, I
Well,
put X amount into the central account, same with my partner, and then we have got X amount that we just spend. That's
yeah.
our, which I think is important too. Like no one wants to be on an allowance by any means, right?
Right.
Just like, you know, and maybe it's whatever set amount, $500 a month or whatever it may be, that there's no questions on where you're spending that money. It's not really tracked. It's like your coffee money or buying a brand new bike money,
Right.
whatever it may be, right? So
Right.
it's just like there's no questions. And then that kind of leads into what kind of dollar amount do you have to have a discussion before you make a big purchase, right?
Mm.
Like if I went out and bought a brand new mountain bike for 10 grand or whatever, I think Kelly would really want to know before I made that purchase,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And every couple would have their own, limit, right? You wouldn't want to, and then keeping a balance in there, I guess, if, you always have whatever, 5 grand sitting in there, and this all of a sudden it's 1 grand because someone spent money on, I don't know, cats or something.
Right.
Just making it up. $4,000 cat, how's that going to affect the relationship, right?
Right.
So,
You bring up first off, I love that idea of kind of having that number, that threshold number of, you're allowed, everyone in the relationship has that number of, if I'm going to spend X amount or more, you need to kind of have that conversation
yeah,
about, okay, should we or should we not do that? Almost like it's corporation of, okay, I have, this is the
yeah,
veto right from this dollar amount or not. But
yeah,
along with that too, there's been this conversation and, in my editing and my media days, I've worked a lot in the relationship space over the years and have
hmm,
friends that are relationship and dating coaches. So I've heard this debate about whether, and there's one in particular that loves talking about whether partners should have joint bank accounts or separate bank accounts,
hmm,
and whether the importance of whether that's good or bad, because in the old days it was seemed to be that's just what you had. You just had a joint account, pretty
right,
much is you had one bank account, all the money went in there, all went out.
yeah,
And now it seems to be kind of more normal in today's day and age for whether it's kind of a mix of the two, but it is not like
hmm,
how it used to be where it was just the one family checking account and that was it.
yeah,
What is your view on that? Do you think it's
yeah.
important? Does it really matter?
I guess from my perspective, I think it's important that everyone has their own money to spend, right? So,
Hmm.
so in our house, we put money into one account. It pays for all the bills. Everything else that we don't put into that account is our money
Yeah.
to spend, right? Excuse me. Um, and that's not freedom. I guess it's liberty. It's, your own agency, being able to do, what you want, live your life as well with your
Yeah.
partner, and not be kind of restricted in that
Yeah.
sense. And that's what I was getting to with the no one wants an allowance, right?
Right.
Or being having to ask to spend money, right? Like that's you know, 12 or
Right.
15 or whatever, right? So,
Right.
um, yeah, yeah. I, with Kelly and I, we have a joint account and a couple separate accounts that we do our own thing with, right? So,
I love that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Also, in today's day and age, it feels as if back then, logistically, I mean, if you wanted a bank account, you had to walk into the bank
yeah,
to physically
yeah,
open up a bank because they had to physically go in the back and actually physically go
yeah,
into the bank and go into the making of the bank account machine and physically spit
yeah,
out a bank account and be like, here you go,
yeah. But even, and I can't remember the date of this, and I wish I could. It wasn't. It was really recently that women could just go and open a bank account on their own without their husband, which
Hmm.
seems crazy today, but I think it was, early 70s that
Yeah.
changed, right?
Yeah.
So 50, 55 years ago, you know, that's that's crazy. That's
Yeah.
telling,
Within
right?
a
From,
generation or two.
yeah,
Yeah.
50s and 60s that, you couldn't open your own bank account. Like,
That's crazy
wow.
that that's how,
Yeah.
just within recent time, within a
Yeah.
generation or two,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
now, anybody, we could be sitting and having this conversation, and within technically like a minute or two, I can open a bank account through so many
Yeah.
different new virtual,
Right.
banking systems and there's so many different ways to be able to do it now. So it's not like how it used to be, where it was such a pain in the neck to have to be able to do it and go through that whole thing. So, the whole process and the way to be able to do it, and the logistics is a whole different level than what it used to be as it is anyway. So I think that adds to that whole side of it too. So
Through the magic of technology. So it wasn't 1974, it was 1964 in Canada.
okay, 1964, but still, like we're talking about
Right?
back 2 generations. It's still,
Yeah.
that's crazy
Yeah.
that it took that long.
Yeah.
It's crazy that it took that long for that to happen. So
It didn't happen in the States until later. 1974, the Equal Credit Opportunity Act was passed in America.
wow.
So almost
So
10
not
years
until
later.
the 1970s did women be able to do that in the U.S.
That's wild.
That probably also explains that generational belief shift as well. Then too, you probably add
Yeah.
that into it. So
Yeah. And
that totally makes sense. So
yeah, you only had one bank account because you could only get one, really.
well,
Or you had
and
a
I think
checking and a savings, right? And
right, exactly, yeah,
yes, my mom could write a check kind of thing. I don't even know if she had her own bank accounts back then, but
yeah.
probably. Um, yeah,
It
it just wild.
and also it all depends on what. Okay, even if you have separate, great, awesome. That's all I think is important. My girlfriend and I mean, we're not married, so we don't have, a joint anyway. We still have separate stuff. But what matters is that, yeah, it's more of a, this is more of a,
Placeholder?
it's it's placeholder, it's a leaseholder. It's on a lease. It's on a lease, actually, not a place. It's not an
I was
ownership.
pointing
It's
to
on a
my
lease.
ring for all those people listening and not watching.
That is an ownership. He's on an ownership. I'm on a lease. So I'm on an 18-month lease. I think also it depends on, it's an element of trust with it too. It's, yes, we have separate because it's a logistical thing, but I also trust you with knowing that, yeah, you have it separate. So that way, if you want to go, go buy parts for your mountain bike, it's just easier that way, because I know that's what you're going to do. It's not because you're sneaking around or anything like that. It's just a logistical easier thing. It's nothing more than that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it might even be as simple as who gets points on their credit card.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, oh God, you do that whole mess then too, because if she has the points, but you need it for yours, and then you're trying, oh God, points transfers. Right. Oh, what a mess.
Yeah.
Oh, what a whole mess.
I didn't know until fairly recently. So we use a WestJet card, and the primary user is the only one that collects points. And I was the secondary user, and I spend.
Oh.
And I wasn't getting any points. I'm like,
Ooh,
so
yes.
We did some shuffling. Now I have a card.
All right. So from there, we know how we're going to spend our money and what a mess that whole thing is. But let's talk about the future. Conversation number 3 is the future chat. Where do we see ourselves in the future? Let's talk about retirement. Let's talk about how we're saving for retirement, what our retirement looks like. What plan do we want to have in store? Have either of us opened up a retirement plan? Do we have one that's connected to our work? Do we have our work plan set up? Do we want to set up other plans? What does our future look like? What do we want, similar to that first one of like, how are we living our lives now? How do we want our future to be looking like, So Chris, what does that type of conversation look like? And along with that, is it important to have if we don't work out, should we do a prenup? Should we prepare for have something written down for the money side if we end up being part of that 50-50 statistic?
Yeah. I think that number's going down, actually. I think divorce rates
It
are going
has gone
down.
down, yeah. In the
Yeah.
last couple of
I
years,
don't
it
know if
has.
that's just because people aren't getting married, but who knows? Um,
Leaseholder, leaseholder. I'm
leaseholder,
telling you,
right?
leaseholder.
He's pointing to his ring, by the
Yeah.
way,
By the way, yeah. If you're on
when
the
he's
audio,
saying
I
that.
apologize. See,
Yeah.
he's now the podcast professional. Yes. If you're on the audio feed, I'm pointing to the ring that I have on my left finger. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's absolutely important to have that conversation, whether or not you get a prenup. It also depends on where you're at in life, what you're bringing to the table, you know, um, how it's in, if that happens, how are you going to deal with it, right? And, um, whether or not it's a verbal agreement or on paper yeah, so, and maybe there's a time limit on it, depending, right?
Mm,
If there's not too much of a discrepancy, um, between assets, maybe
yeah.
it's whatever the number is. Let's say it's $500,000, which is a lot, but not for some people. Maybe after 10 years, it's like, well, we're in this together. After 10 years, that whatever $500,000 doesn't count anymore. It's all commingled, right? or you keep it separate, right? So in Alberta, an inheritance, um, if I received an inheritance and I don't commingle it with Kelly into a joint account of any kind, keep it separate, that's always my money, right? So that is separate. I think that's similar with other provinces, right? So yeah, you definitely want to have that conversation. Could be awkward, especially if there's a big disparity between the two. And if you survive that conversation,
You're good to go.
they're
You're good
good,
to go.
right? Everything else is easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the future. I mean, and that's where background comes in, right? As well. How do you perceive money? Are you coming from a family that parents worked until they died,
Hmm.
right? And your dad, died on the job or 2 years after he retired,
Okay.
or kind of the opposite where someone retired early, and so your view of retirement could be totally different, right?
Yeah.
And what you want to do in retirement, like you said, do you have that work pension? Um, is it a guaranteed pension or is it a defined contribution pension, right? All these factors can make a huge difference. And, what you want to do in retirement together, I hope, um, will impact, that savings goal, right?
Yeah.
So usually, if you're on the same page, I get clients to kind of work out their budget today. This is what we're spending, X amount a month. We're going to subtract the things that we're saving or spending money on for the future, or saving for the future. So whatever those contributions are, and that leaves us with this. Maybe we want to add in more travel or whatever we like to do, which gives us a number today, roughly, right? And it depends how
Hmm.
close they are to retirement. If you're 40 years away, it's going to be pretty gray, but
Hmm.
it's a good starting place. And the closer you are to retirement, the clearer it's going to become. You'll know what you're looking forward to and all that. So
Yeah.
you can refine the numbers the closer you get. But it's a good place to start and then go, okay, well, we need as a couple, whatever, 80 grand after taxes to do the base of our life, and maybe we need another 20 for travel. So 100 grand after taxes. What do we have to do to get there in X amount of years?
Yeah.
Right. And then how long is that money going to last? All that fun stuff.
Yeah.
That's a different episode.
Well, it also probably it probably also depends too on like those conversations you have. They probably vary and differ between, say, someone they're getting married in their late 20s versus maybe
Mm-hmm.
someone in their 30s versus their 40s. because
Absolutely.
everyone's going to be in a different place in their retirement planning, but also then
Yep.
too, you think, okay, maybe someone is in their 40s. This is their second marriage. They already
Mm-hmm.
have X amount in their pot. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe they had a vision for the retirement originally, and that other
Yep.
person had. Now you have two people who had two original different versions. Now
Yeah.
they have a new vision, and
Yep.
those plans might have lined up, might not have.
Mm-hmm.
Do you plan for one new vision? Do you plan for separate like that?
Yeah.
That there's so many different variables that come in to
Yep.
play like that, and those are kind of tough questions to ask because you go, yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
want to plan the rest of my life with you, but I also
Yep.
had a plan originally with someone who I wanted to spend the rest of my life with, and that didn't work out. So do
Yep.
I plan the new plan for someone and just
Mm-hmm.
like really keep our fingers crossed this time around,
Yeah. I think most couples, especially when they're coming into it from a second marriage, right? They know what they want, right?
Yeah.
And I think the the timeline of from when you meet to get married is shortened, right? Because
Yes,
like,
it's true.
yeah, you fit, and everyone else doesn't fit. You fit. Can we
True.
figure out these key points?
Yeah.
Yes. All right, let's give her a shot, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully it's a little less cavalier than that,
Right.
but I think usually when you're older, what retirement is going to look like, right?
Yeah.
You got to you've been through the ringer. That future that you thought you had is gone for
Yeah.
whatever reason. You're kind of starting over, and you're planning that. You probably planned that before you met this other person. Maybe
Yeah.
not. But
Yeah.
I think that's a core conversation for sure.
Yeah. And also all these the conversations we talked about before, all three of these probably would differ also if it's your second marriage in general, because you probably have gone through it before. You're
Mm-hmm.
like, all right, well, I know what I went through before. It's going to be a little
Yep.
different this time. So you're going to be either more confident having it, or
1,000%.
the answers,
Yep.
you're going to be more confident of what you want the answers are going to have to be for you
Yep.
to know
Yeah.
that this is going to have to work for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that kind of makes sense too. I think, either you're protecting yourself a little bit more, um, and that's why you want to have separate accounts and one central account to pay the bills, or,
Hmm.
I've seen it where people just pay their own thing, right? So,
Yeah.
I'm paying the mortgage or whatever, and you're paying the groceries out of your account. We don't have a joint account. Everything's totally separate.
Right.
Investment statements are separate. Everything is separate. And you're like, oh, okay, a little more awkward, in a
Hmm.
meeting, right? You look at your stuff, you look at your stuff. We won't look at each other's, and you're planning. I can see everything, but trying to plan for their future, a little bit more awkward. And I think, if they're not, already retired, that kind of fades after time, right? So
Yep.
it's like, we'll just put everything together. This is working out. If we have to split it up later, you know, it should be pretty easy.
Yep.
But yeah, so.
No, I totally get that. Well, I think this
Hmm.
was a great conversation. Is there anything you think that we miss? Is there like one big takeaway that you think people should think
Yeah,
about
I
when
mean,
they
what
sit down and have these
what popped
conversations?
into my head was actually to do with kind of two families coming together later in life,
Hmm.
and kind of an estate planning. What happens should one spouse die?
Mm,
If the one person comes with a few kids and the other person comes with a few kids, um, where do the assets go, right?
yep.
Is it one house that the other person lives in? How old are the kids? Does one person's assets go to each kids? Does it all come together and go, you know, equally distributed among all of them? Like
Hmm.
that's huge. That's a big one.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
as I always say, I think it's the conversation that you need to have, no matter where you are in life,
Yep.
what stage, which you're just starting out or starting again, having that conversation is pretty important. Yeah.
Yep.
And
And if you,
a good advisor, good financial planner will help you through that conversation, right?
yep. And if you'd like to have a conversation with one of those good ones, you can find a link and some information to contact Chris Fox. Chris, where can they find you?
You can find me on the World Wide Web at www.foxfinancial.ca.
And also, too, there's plenty of other resources on there if you want to get some more information and learn a little bit more about Chris, or find some other resources about all the information we talked about. That's all on there as well at foxfinancial.ca. That's also where you can find links to all the information about our podcast as well, where you can find links to wherever you found this. If you want to find it elsewhere on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, all that information is on there as well. Chris, this was a lot of fun. I think this was a good conversation today.
Sure was. It's great.
Yeah, had a good conversation with this. Yeah, call Chris. He'll share some more information, and he'll help guide you through this very important thing. He will not give you any actual relationship advice, just the relationship money advice. So
depends how close we get.
He can give you all the other knowledge. Chris, thanks so much for your time today, and thank you so much for listening to Money Makes It Weird. Again, for more info, foxfinancial.ca. Until next time, thanks so much.
Thank you, Matt. Cheers, everyone.
Trademarks owned by Investment Planning Council Incorporated and licensed to its subsidiary corporations. Investment Planning Council is a fully integrated wealth management company. Mutual funds available through IPC Investment Corporation and IPC Securities Corporation. Securities available through IPC Securities Corporation, a member of the Canadian Investor Protection Fund. Insurance products available through Chris Fox.